Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts, the podcast for listeners who love the spooky, the spiritual, and the unpredictable. I'm your host, Jennifer, and before we conjure up tonight's topic, if you find you love this podcast and want to support its vitality, I ask that you take a minute and leave a kind review or rating, or both, and share an episode with a friend you think might love it as well. Pick your favorite episode and post a link on social media. Any action you take is appreciated beyond words, and it really does keep this podcast growing and new episodes coming. So thank you for that. Now, on tonight's episode, I am trying something new. I have kicked around the idea to every once in a while bring on a guest and discuss the paranormal, the metaphysical, or spiritual topics of interest. This could be a spooky discussion about ghosts, or a deep dive into psychic work, or really anything in between. So for tonight, dear listener, I have a podcast guest, a lovely friend and talented energy healer, Stephanie Stefan, and I'm breaking format to have a metaphysical discussion about animal energy healing. As a healer, Stephanie has almost 10 years of experience in holistic animal care and offers services tailored to each individual pet. And she also believes that all people are capable of this healing work and offers classes and lectures that reflect that philosophy. I hope you enjoy our discussion and feel like you're joining in on an interesting conversation. And Stephanie is also going to share her own personal ghost story as well. So enjoy and let me know if you'd like to hear more interviews and what topics. And I'll see you next week for the show's traditional format. Hello and welcome to I Talk to Ghosts. My guest this evening is Stephanie. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jennifer. Thank you for having me here.
I am so excited to have a conversation with you about animal energy healing work. I just want to dive right in, if I can. Let me ask you, would you mind sharing what are your favorite different modalities of energy healing and working with animals that you enjoy experiencing and cultivating in your work?
Over the years, I have really expanded my toolbox, and I initially started with traditional Reiki, Usui Reiki, which I loved, and I do practice it depending on the situation. But then I moved to shelter animal Reiki, and then what I like about this one is that it allowed me to learn to see past the 3D existence of the animals so that I don't dwell in the suffering, animals that are transitioning or animals who are suffering from cruelty, from abuse, from abandonment, and all of the different things that we do not like to see. I was able to, with this particular Reiki, I was able to learn to get past that idea and connect directly with their essence. And that is one of my favorite areas that I do incorporate in my healing practice, because if I am asked by someone, oh, I'm so worried about my animal is suffering from this disease or is about to transition, then I have already basically acquired that skill to not cry along with the human, but actually help the human see it from a whole different angle, a different perspective, so that it's not so devastating and overwhelmingly sad. So I love that one too. And most recently, within the last year, I've been doing Dragon Reiki. There's 2 different modalities of Dragon Reiki that I got And what I like about those, I don't know that I have a favorite, Jennifer, so I actually just telling you all of them.
Sure, no. And I can imagine that you blend some modalities, like a little bit of this and a little bit of that, or whatever's called for in the moment in your heart.
Yes, I am following my intuition in the moment, and I'm also following what the animal needs in the moment, because it's not my decision. No, Stephanie, I decide what's best for you. No, the animal is going to reciprocate in the conversation and let me know I need this, and yes, please put your hands on me, or no, I'd like distance, and yes, I would like to receive it. No, maybe I just wanted to, maybe you can do the gift and the service, but I'm not going to get it at this particular moment. I'll do it later. All of those are their choices, not mine. And so I just go with what honors them, and it is a conversation, and I do what they would like me to do in the moment, what is in their highest and greatest good. And that's a service. So it's not about, oh, I know Reiki and I am going to fix you because I know how.
Right.
It's none of that. Is two very sovereign beings of light collaborating together in order to rebalance the frequency wherever is needed, and work together on that. That's basically what that is.
Yeah, that is a lovely explanation of so many different layers there. First, we're talking about how it isn't up to you, and that surrender to the higher energy, and also communicating with the spirit, this animal, as to what will work for them and what they need, and not putting all these rules and expectations before even starting the process, right? One thing I would love to talk about with you is communicating with animals. Now, as a medium, every once in a while, I have encountered an animal spirit, an animal that has crossed over. And the first time I was specifically asked to connect with someone's pet cat that had passed away. At first, my human brain was like, how is that possible? Animals don't have the human language. How are we going to communicate? What is that like? And I realized that to communicate and blend with an animal energy is no different than any other energy. We don't communicate in English. And it's much more expansive than language. So to hear you talk about how an animal is expressing itself, I would just love to hear your perspective on it from your experience of what that communication is like for you. What do you experience?
Yes, I experience more of a knowing that is what is right, and that is what is being conveyed. I tend to look into their eyes, and I usually, when I'm asked to help with an animal, I usually request a picture. And even though I get an idea in my third eye about what the animal looks like, I like to see the picture, because I see through their eyes, even if it's a picture, maybe even if it's not in person, but I see through their eyes what is the source of the suffering and what is not in balance at the moment. And from then I start the conversation, and I ask permission about, can I speak with you about what will be troubling you and where I could help, if there is anything I can do for you. And I get the images. I get maybe like a little clip of a movie where I can see a particular scene where, let's say, cat's favorite toy is an orange ball. Then I would see the cat playing with that orange ball somewhere in the house, and I would just see that. It would be a very brief, fleeting image in movement, but it is like a little clip of a movie. And then I would also, through the communication, would be something like, I just knowing that's what it is I look into their eyes, and it's like, okay, that's it. I don't even ask, is
Mm-hmm.
I already know. And then I can ask in usually images. For example, instead of trying to construct a sentence in English and ask one specific piece of information, what I would just do would be something like imagine the animal in a specific scenario and then intuitively ask, why is this happening? Or how can I help you with this? Or so it will be more of I share images and the animal shares images
Mm-hmm.
back with me. And there is an all knowing that is
Mm-hmm.
happening. And usually that's how it works. And again, through their eyes as well, because a lot of the information I get is just by looking into their eyes and seeing, oh, this is where I need to start.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that you feel any difference between a remote session and an in-person session?
I do both a lot, but because of the pandemic, the convenience of doing it remotely, I started doing it more frequently. When I do it in person, usually the human is around.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there are noises, distractions, and things around in the environment that perhaps will be interrupting
Mm-hmm.
the conversation. And I have to work harder on just staying connected. But when I am doing it remotely, I have none of that.
Yeah.
It's very intimate conversation where I can go really deep. And yes, I'm not going to put my hands on the animal, but most of the times I don't even use my hands because it's not even necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, I mean, I'm not trying to convey that the traditional Reiki,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I have nothing against that is that the energy healing that I have developed over the years goes beyond the physical contact,
Mm-hmm.
and the energy is transmitted through not just the hands, it's transmitted through all of the chakras and particularly the heart.
Yeah.
And so for that purpose, for that reason, yes, hands can be really helpful in certain situations, but most of the time I'm not using them.
Yeah. And I would agree with you there that we should move past the concept of space and time, for that matter. Those are human constructs that limit us in a way. And we're already talking about energy healing, quantum work, things beyond seeing and understanding tangibly, so in a way you have to ask yourself, why not? Why does it matter? And I can see the benefit of not having someone there in the room, kind of like you're kind of like you have an audience or you're being observed, whereas in your own space, in your own sacred space, you have time and comfort there, where there's less of that human pressure that we put on ourselves, having someone watching you, or even having to explain what you're doing, or how it looks, that sort of thing. Especially if someone isn't familiar with energy work. And it can, if it takes a little bit of your attention, it's taking a little bit of your energy there. And yeah, I've done a lot of remote sessions in my experience, and it is nice to have that quiet. And a lot of my mediumship work is done over, video conferencing. And I always felt that, gosh, with the person not physically here with me, is the connection going to be as strong? And it's just something that we, again, have to let go and trust that it works, and try not to put these rules and, these restrictions on ourselves as we go along. So, yeah, thank you for that. I am curious about when you discovered your energy healing gifts. What are the What is the story behind that? And also your journey. Were you always drawn to working towards animals? You just seem to have such an affinity for it. So I'm just very curious about where you discovered this. What was the first inkling of, hey, I should pay attention to this? And yes, this feels right to me. Could you share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. All my entire childhood, I had always been the one who would be rescuing animals that got hurt by a car or that were abandoned or were lost, or I would always be that person, that kid. I would be the only kid because the kids were busy playing. I would be so concerned that this animal got injured in a country. I grew up in Costa Rica, in a country where it's normal. They just see an animal hurting and it's just like fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
I would be the one devastated. I need to do something about it. And that led me to wanting to be a vet for the longest time. All my elementary school, middle school, high school, all the way to senior year, when I finally realized if I study animal medicine, I'm going to have to be the one putting them down too. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. At that point in my life, I did not think I had the strength, emotional strength and endurance to do that on a regular basis. And for that reason, at the last minute, I decided not to go into vet school. But my love for animals never went away. And fast forward to just a decade ago, a friend of mine offered, would you like to learn to do Reiki? And at that point, I was not that familiar with Reiki. I might have heard about it. Maybe I had a session, somebody did Reiki for me. But I did not have a lot of knowledge about Reiki, but I was very intrigued about the energy healing. And I took the class. I loved it. I realized, wow, this is powerful. And because I was living at the time with my daughter and my dog Spikey, I practiced a lot on her, but also a lot on him. And that's where it started. That's where I realized this is my calling. I mean, I love my daughter and I practiced on her and it was great. But I love the fact that every time I worked on him, he would just lounge wherever he was on the sofa or the bed, and he would be so incredibly in receiving mode of it all, like soaking it all in. And I have to say, he's 13 years old and he's probably the healthiest 13-year-old dog I have ever seen. And I do pet sitting on a regular basis, so I have seen a lot of dogs, and I have never seen a dog at 13 look like him.
Wow. Do you find that within the animal categories, you have more gifts that are tailored towards dogs or cats or horses, or do you find that across the board, all animals just have a very strong connection with you?
Across the board. No particular preference. The only reason I mention dogs is because I do pet sitting and I could not bring cats into a dog's house because my dog is a terrier and that's not a safe situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a bearded dragon, which is right behind me right now.
Oh.
And I have fish. I have really an affinity to all animals. And I have noticed even insects respond because all sentient beings, everything is energy.
Mm-hmm.
We just get so consumed by the idea that only those traditional pets are worthy of our love. But in fact, everything that moves, everything that is alive, it has energy, it's got that divine essence in them. And I was coming out of a party with some friends a few years back, and one slug was just moving across our path. And when we stopped to admire the size of this slug, the slug actually did a turn and started moving towards me. And I could not believe that. I was in shock because that was my first experience with a non-animal. It's a living creature, but it's not an animal, it's an insect that responded to the energy in that way. And it was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
So I do that with bees that sometimes they just hit the windshield and then they drop, and then I don't want them to die. So I pick them up and then I just hold them for a moment and then they fly away. Or little things like that you can just provide assistance in any situation. Little things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, expanding that even further. I know people who have used Reiki on their vehicle. You know, everything, living or non-living, we are all energy. And to lean into that concept and to just, even out of curiosity, to explore working with that and how things react. And it's just very interesting to have that mindset navigating through life. With that, speaking of navigating through life, I love to ask people who are on a strong spiritual path how they find balance navigating the modern world, all of the non-spiritual things that we have to deal with in the day versus being a spiritual being. Do you feel that you have to segment yourself, or do you feel like you have a nice blend of being able to integrate your spirituality and your mindset into your life? Or do you feel like sometimes you have to turn it off and wear a different hat? You know, like today I am going to the bank and dealing with these human things, and there's no time for spirituality. Or do you find that, you know what I'm asking, do you find that you can blend your spirituality in there a little bit more? Or do you feel like you have to switch channels sometimes?
If you had asked me that question maybe 5 years ago, I would have said, I'm still living in my spiritual closet and I have not come out. But now my perspective is completely different. I realize that I practice spirituality in the most mundane things because I am a spirit and I cannot remove myself from it. It is always there. And an example, today I was in a meeting at work and the coworker who I had right next to me, I know he is following the Jain religion that respects all living beings, but I did not know how different it is from Buddhism, and I wanted to inquire. So here I am at work in a corporate building right before a meeting early in the morning, talking about the 3 most important principles of respecting all different kinds of beings, that it's not just do no harm, but it's also think no harm. And anything that, even animal crackers, because they represent an animal, if you bite into them, it is the thought that you're actually biting off their head, biting off their legs. So they don't even eat the animal crackers because of what they represent. And what a conversation to have at work, right?
Yeah.
I was marveled by the fact that it's totally natural and it's totally okay to bring it up and discuss and learn more. But to be honest, when I changed my perspective, it was not about, oh, let me tell you about we are light beings in a human experience. And no, it is word choice and how to frame things is the difference, because everybody has a heart. In fact, I have been wanting to do for a long time whole inventory of all the different phrases in the English language that mention the heart. Like, I have a heavy heart. It warms my heart. I have a full heart. All these different expressions. What is that heart? But not how we connect with each other's essence. And there is nothing that says that's religious or that's spiritual or that is just 3D, regular mundane things. Nobody makes that distinction. Everybody has the heart, and everybody understands what it is to have a heavy heart or a warm heart. And when you approach it from that perspective, then there is really not a difference between spirituality and living the regular life.
Yeah.
I have noticed that, and it took me a few years to get there, but I finally am here, and it is embedded in everything I do because I'm living with an open heart, and there is no other way of living anymore.
Yeah. I really love that way of thinking. And the reason I ask is just because, you mentioned that spiritual closet, and I feel like a lot of people are reserved because of, judgment of others or how other people will react. And it doesn't, like you said, it can come down to how you phrase things or how you approach things. It isn't about enforcing your beliefs on someone else. It's about living life authentically for you. And that might sound different depending on how you're expressing yourself in a certain conversation, but that doesn't change your core and it doesn't change your essence. And that's just something that is really important to me because I recognize it as a challenge for so many. That's like, how do I just blend these different aspects of myself into life? And I just love to have that conversation and have people see other people's viewpoints on it and what their advice is or how they manage and navigate in life. Do you have any advice for someone who, listening to you, is like, oh my gosh, this is calling to my heart. Where do I start? Where should I begin? How can I explore these different avenues of energy healing?
Yes, that's wonderful. I teach classes.
Perfect.
Anyone could start there because I have done basic energy healing, very small baby steps that will allow somebody who's just intrigued by the idea to become somebody who actually can do it on a regular basis and do it with their pets. If they're not even suffering from anything, it's fine, but they are surrounded by everybody's worries and concerns and frustrations and the world and the self-consciousness and worry is there. And we can always work on helping them just relieve that burden, that emotional burden that they carry that we don't even realize that they do carry. But also, I did just recently put together a mentorship program because one of my previous students from years ago went professional, and I put together a mentorship program to assist her on that journey of all different sources. And I compiled what I have experienced over the years, where I have learned my techniques from, where I have acquired additional knowledge, and communities that people who want to go into this animal healing practice can connect to in order to feel part of something. So, because one of the things is not feeling alone, like I'm the only one doing this and I don't know anybody else. Oh no, there are a lot. And animal lovers, we are a very big community, and it keeps expanding as we become more aware about animals have a soul. It's not just humans. And as we all get to that understanding, then the love for animals continues to expand as well. So the community continues to grow, and there's no reason to feel alone. For that reason, I put together that mentorship program, and I was very happy to do this with my former student who is now doing this on a regular basis professionally.
Well, anyone who is interested in working with you or checking out that program, where can they go online to check out that information?
Yes, I will post that in the notes of the podcast. It is in my website. And what is cool, if you are wondering about, well, but what does this animal healing do? What, I have testimonials from my clients, how transformational and profound the healing is, because it doesn't just happen at a physical level. It happens at an emotional level, but also in a spiritual level. There is a rebalance of everything. And not only the animal comes out in a better place, but the human who is fully connected with the energy field of the animal will experience the same. And how does that translate into the changes in their life? It all depends on the person, and it all depends on the animal. But the transformation is definitely felt. And even in cases where there is the transitioning into across the rainbow, that is of course, we never want to say goodbye, because we want to have our animals with us, next to us all the time. But even in those circumstances, I have been able to work with the humans in those moments and make this sad moment into more of a joyful goodbye, that they know and understand that it is a good thing and that they are still there, which is very important. Knowing that they are not gone is super important. And they come and they provide messages, and it's just really heartwarming right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I will make sure to provide those links in the show details so that anyone can come and check it out and see more in detail what kind of work that you do and the impact that it has. Okay. Well, before we go, I just have to ask you, do you have a personal ghost story you'd like to share?
Talking about animal spirits, I want to tell you, there was a time when I was in one of the events, the ghost conferences, and I was in a gallery reading, and there were like 100 or 200 people. I don't know. It was huge. And this was a psychic actually reading my animal for me. All of a sudden, the psychic says, there is a bird flying around, and this bird is yours, isn't she? And then he described the bird. It was a green parrot, and described the death. And then I knew it was mine for sure. And I said, yes, that is her. I was a child when this animal died. It was one of my pets. And probably that was the most devastating pet loss I've had up to that point. And even today, I still believe that is probably the most hurtful for me. And there's two that have been really hard, but that one was definitely the first one. And he started explaining how sorry she was that she had left me so soon, and she had seen my pain after she had left, and she felt regret about the early departure. And I was so blown away by the fact that she came back, because that was a pet from my childhood. That was decades ago. And yes, so animals come back and they are with us, and that was definitely very touching. Another one that I have, if I may, a little quick one. The other hurtful pet loss that I had was a bunny called a Prince Pinkerton. And it was horrific, because I witnessed the attack, and then I lost my pet. After that, every day I would hear the bunny likes to do the thumping sound, and I had the whole playpen set up right behind my home office. I would be working from home and my pet would be playing with all his toys and in the back. And I would be hearing him play, even though the toys were gone, the play pan was gone, and he was gone. There was nothing making noise, but the noises were still happening. It happened for at least, I don't know, a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I didn't hear it anymore. And I knew that he had fully transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was not doing energy healing yet. Otherwise, I would have connected with him at that moment when he was letting me know that he was present. But I have connected with my animals after I did start with my energy healing, and it's not sad that they're gone because now I understand they're there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different way of connecting. And so that doesn't make me feel devastated anymore. And that is the biggest gift that energy healing can give anybody. Is not feeling devastated because there is no separation. We are just in a different realm, but we are here and we can still connect.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful and lovely, and it's just so wonderful to witness and to be a part of that. And yeah, thank you so much for your stories and your insights. And this has just been a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been amazing. Thank you.
And with that, dear listener, we've reached the end of this episode of I Talk to Ghosts. I hope you enjoyed the discussion I shared with you tonight on animal energy healing. Do you have experiences of your own with this topic? Oh my gosh, I would love to hear about it. So please reach out. And also let me know if you enjoyed this break-in format and if this is something that you would like to see more of in the future. In the meantime, wherever you wander off to in this world or the next, just remember, come back and visit with me. Have a lovely evening and good night.